Hello, friends. This is the Netarts Friends Church podcast. We are Jesus people, Kingdom of God people, welcoming, yearning, sharing. And we're glad you're connecting here with us. We'd love to connect in person as well. If you're inclined to support this podcast or for more information, just hop on over to netartsfriends.org. That's netartsfriends.org. Let's jump into today's sermon. I want to begin today by inviting you to notice the way that you are leaning your weight on the chair that you are sitting on, if you're sitting on a chair, or if you're standing. Pay attention to the way that your feet are upon the floor. Are your muscles half flexed? Are they poised in case the floor gives way or in case the chair gives way? Or are you leaning so completely on the chair or relying so completely on the floor that you really aren't even thinking about it until I brought it up right now? Psalm 37 says, "Be still and rest in the Lord. Wait for him and patiently lean yourself upon him. Fret not yourself because of him who prospers in his way, because of the man who brings wicked devices to pass." We spend so much of life trying to hold everything together, our muscles flexed, trying to bear all the burdens and figure everything out. And we need times of stillness. We need times to shift the burden over in prayer, to lean the full weight of our life onto the one who loves us, to shift those burdens over to the one who loves us. In our Sunday worship gathering, we spent some time in stillness, just letting those burdens shift over, leaning ourselves upon the Lord. And so I want to give some time before we jump into the Gospel of Luke for you here. Just take this time of silence to patiently lean yourself upon the Lord. Do you know the feeling of being on trial? Perhaps you haven't spent much time in a courtroom, but this feeling of being on trial doesn't only happen in courtrooms. It's a feeling that can catch you unaware anytime you feel accused. A coworker says something that makes you feel like you got it wrong. A negative comment hits you sideways while you're trying to hurry out of the house, or a parenting moment gets out of whack and you feel ganged up on. You receive an email or a text that's critical of you. Your spouse or partner misrepresents what you said in a way that makes you feel unknown and misunderstood. Your parents act like they have you pegged and they won't listen to what you mean. Your boss is evaluating your work and says something that sounds ominous or threatening. A sibling takes off the gloves and starts name calling or hitting below the belt. A situation doesn't have to look like a courtroom in order for you to feel like you are on trial. It's astounding how quickly life can go from being peachy keen to some small event catching you unaware, and suddenly you're experiencing those courtroom feelings. You feel accused, judged, misrepresented, misunderstood, threatened, pinned down, ganged up on, demeaned, alone, unwanted, scapegoated, experiencing injustice. You're the one on trial. So, a quick discussion or reflection question. We chatted about this with one another on Sunday. What are daily life situations that may not look like a courtroom, but can easily cause someone to feel like they're on trial? So, in groups, we made a short list together. I would invite you to just think of those situations that cause it to feel this way. All right. When this feeling of being on trial blindsides you, it can bring all kinds of responses out of you. You may want to explain yourself, justify yourself, defend yourself, prove yourself. You may experience anxiety or pain or feel frozen. Your head may spin with negative narratives about yourself or about others. Your body may spin with dysregulation. Your emotions may flood. Your words may flood. Maybe you become really reactive. You might say the first thing that comes to mind or fire back accusations, escalate the situation, try to get even, try to gain control, manipulate, try to find people who will take your side. None of us want to feel like we're on trial. And life is full of small moments that can cause us to feel like we're on trial. So this brings us to our journey through the Gospel of Luke. It's the story of the trial of Jesus. It's a story of the silence of Jesus and the words of Jesus and the place that those words come from. So here's the story. Then, seizing Jesus, they led him away and took him into the house of the high priest. The men who were guarding Jesus began mocking and beating him. They blindfolded him and demanded, "Prophesy, who hit you?" And they said many other insulting things to him. At daybreak, the council of the elders of the people, both the chief priests and the teachers of the law, met together, and Jesus was led before them. "If you're the Messiah," they said, "tell us." And Jesus answered, "If I tell you, you'll not believe me, and if I asked you, you wouldn't answer. But from now on, the Son of Man will be seated at the right hand of the mighty God, the power of God." They all asked, "Are you then the Son of God?" And he replied, "You say that I am." Then they said, "Why do we need any more testimony? We have heard it from his own lips." And then the whole assembly rose and led him off to Pilate. And they began to accuse him, saying, "We found this man subverting our nation. He opposes payment of taxes to Caesar and claims to be Messiah, a king." So Pilate asked Jesus, "Are you the king of the Jews?" "You have said so," Jesus replied. Then Pilate announced to the chief priests and the crowd, "I find no basis for a charge against this man." But they insisted, "He stirs up the people all over Judea by his teaching. He started in Galilee and he's come all the way here." On hearing this, Pilate asked if the man was a Galilean. And when he learned that Jesus was under Herod's jurisdiction, he sent him to Herod, who was also in Jerusalem at that time. When Herod saw Jesus, he was greatly pleased, because for a long time he had been wanting to see him. From what he had heard about him, he hoped to see him perform a sign of some sort. He plied him with many questions, but Jesus gave him no answer. The chief priests and the teachers of the law were standing there vehemently accusing him. Then Herod and his soldiers ridiculed and mocked him. Dressing him in an elegant robe, they sent him back to Pilate. That day Herod and Pilate became friends. Before this, they had been enemies. Pilate called together the chief priests, the rulers, and the people, and said to them, "You brought me this man as one who was inciting the people to rebellion. I've examined him in your presence, and have found no basis for your charges against him, neither has Herod, for he sent him back to us. As you can see, he's done nothing to deserve death. Therefore I'll punish him and then release him." But the whole crowd shouted, "Away with this man! Release Barabbas to us!" Barabbas had been thrown into prison for an insurrection in the city and for murder. Wanting to release Jesus, Pilate appealed to them again, but they kept shouting, "Crucify him! Crucify him!" For the third time he spoke to them, "Why? What crime has this man committed? I have found in him no grounds for the death penalty. Therefore, I'll have him punished and then release him." But with loud shouts, they insistently demanded that he be crucified, and their shouts prevailed. So Pilate decided to grant their demand. He released the man who had been thrown into prison for insurrection and murder, the one they asked for, and surrendered Jesus to their will. This story is heavy. It's the kind of story that you may feel like, man, I would rather just save this for Good Friday and deal with it once a year and leave it there. But the Apostle Peter and many of the writers of the New Testament, they didn't think of this story simply as some form of record keeping. They took this story as a model, as an example, as an image to keep in front of our view. Peter says it this way: "Christ suffered for you, leaving you an example, that you should follow in his steps. He committed no sin, and no deceit was found in his mouth. When they hurled their insults at him, he did not retaliate. When he suffered, he made no threats. Instead, he entrusted himself to him who judges justly." What is it within Jesus's very human experience of being put on trial that can empower you and me and open a pathway to actually live through our own experiences differently? I see Jesus modeling something other than simply being quiet here. And it's not that we cannot open our mouth when we are put on trial. I see Jesus showing us something about the place that our words come from and what our words are trying to accomplish. After a night of no sleep, Jesus was led before the Sanhedrin, the supreme Jewish council that made rulings on religious, political, legal matters in Israel. Scholars tell us that this part of the trial took place at the Temple Mount. Jesus was in the courtroom of the supreme Jewish authorities, the Sanhedrin. And yet notice the place where Jesus' words came from. Jesus said, "From now on, the Son of Man will be seated at the right hand of the power of God." He's not only talking about what will be, he's not only making a reference to Psalm 110 and Daniel 7, he's talking about something right now. That word now, noon, means the present. While Jesus was standing in the courtroom of the Sanhedrin, sleep deprived, battered, beaten, He simultaneously was envisioning himself in a different courtroom, in a different throne room, seated at the right hand of the power of God. That word right hand is biblical imagery for God providing support, God's victory. And of course, the way that God exercises his power can be very different than the way the world exercises power. So the words Jesus chose to speak during his trial came from a different place, a different courtroom. Jesus saw the full reality. Now, why does this matter? Which courtroom are your words coming from? When life blindsides you and suddenly the accusations are flying at you and you're the one on trial and your fingers hovering over the text button that you were about to fire back and all the words want to come spilling out of your mouth, are they coming from the courtroom of your accusers? Because if those words are coming from the courtroom of your accusers, those words are probably going to be words of anxiety, fear, reactivity, defensiveness, anger, manipulation, control, ego, vengeance. Jesus stands in the courtroom of his accusers, but he speaks from another courtroom. He's rooted and grounded and secure in another throne room. He doesn't need to prove himself. He knows who he is. The chaos and the anxiety is swirling around him, and I don't want to say that Jesus isn't experiencing it in the same human way that chaos and anxiety hits us. I think he is, but I don't see Jesus absorbing that chaos and anxiety. I don't see it getting inside of him in the same way. Be still before the Lord. Wait patiently for him. Don't fret when people succeed in their ways, when they carry out their wicked schemes. Refrain from anger. Turn from wrath. Do not fret. It leads only to evil. Jesus can see that his accusers are not in a place of listening. Dialogue is not happening. Questions and answers are not being exchanged. And so he allows others to speak without letting them speak for him. Like he says twice, well, that's what you're saying. Which courtroom are your words coming from when you are the one on trial? It's not that Jesus is telling you you can't say anything, but it's about where your words are coming from and what they're trying to accomplish. I wonder what would happen when you feel like you're on trial if you remained quiet until you found your way to that other courtroom, to that place where we just practiced being a few moments ago when we were silent, that place where you have shifted the weight. You have leaned the burden of life over to the one who loves you, the one who says, I'm providing support. I will have the victory. The way I exercise my power is very different than the way the world exercises power, but my love will have the victory. The author of Hebrews says, for we do not have a high priest who's unable to empathize with our weaknesses, but we have one who has been tempted in every way, just as we are, yet he did not sin. Let us then approach God's throne of grace with confidence, so that we may receive mercy and find grace to help us in our time of need. When all of your defenses are up and your nervous system is activated, all you can see is this courtroom. All you can see is these accusations, the threat. And I wonder how long it takes you with your body chemistry, with your personality, with your brain, with your history, to speak from that other place. In some situations, you may only need a moment. You may be able to tell someone, just give me a moment, and then you're good. And in other situations, you may need to say, can we take a break? Can we revisit this soon? And you might need some hours, some days, before you can speak from that other place. I'm not sure that we learned this in a day, even though I wish we did. Can you remember back in grade school when you were first learning to write your letters and all the letters of the alphabet were posted all around the walls of the classroom? Guess what they called that copy of all the letters of the alphabet in ancient times? They called it an example. They called it a hupogramos. It was a copy of all the letters of the alphabet given to beginners as an aid in learning to write their own letters. Christ suffered for you, leaving you an alphabet, an example, a hupogramos that you should follow in his steps. Now, for me, I'd been learning my letters, my alphabet for 5 years. I was in the 4th grade when my teacher, I came home one day, told my mom, yeah, my teacher said that my writing looks like chicken scratch. And some days my writing still looks like chicken scratch. I have days that my writing is super messy. Similarly, we don't learn to handle our trials the way that Jesus handled his in a day, but we keep learning our alphabet. We keep walking in the steps of Jesus, following his example. And Jesus believes in you here. This is a path that you are capable of walking. Sometimes our body can get so activated or trauma stuff gets triggered and you feel stuck in that courtroom of your accusers and your body really needs to downshift. And that's where it can be helpful to lean into prayer and put an ice pack on your face or your neck or your back, to lean into prayer and engage in intense exercise, to lean into prayer and do some paced breathing, which is like take a breath in for 4 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let it out. 1, 2, 3, 4. Something like that. That's paced breathing. Or to do some prayer and some progressive muscle relaxation. Like tighten your the arches of your feet for 10 seconds and then relax for 10 seconds. And then move up, tighten your ankles, all the muscles in your ankles for 10 seconds. Hold it and then relax those muscles for 10 seconds. And then you move up your legs, tighten your calves, and so on and so forth. Become still and rest in the Lord. Patiently lean yourself upon him. The Apostle James says everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to become angry, because human anger does not produce the justice and righteousness that God desires. The Apostle Peter says, do not repay evil with evil or insult with insult. On the contrary, repay evil with blessing, because to this you were called, so that you may inherit a blessing. For whoever would love life and see good days must keep their tongue from evil and their lips from deceitful speech. They must turn from evil and do good. They must seek peace and pursue it. For the eyes of the Lord are on the righteous, and his ears are attentive to their prayer. But the face of the Lord is against those who do evil. Who is going to harm you if you are eager to do good? But even if you should suffer for the sake of justice and righteousness, you are blessed. Do not fear their threats. Do not be frightened, but in your hearts revere Christ as Lord. So I want to close with one more short moment of silence. Let's go back to that practice, that still place where we started, leaning the burdens and the weight on Jesus. So I invite you to feel the chair under you or the floor under you and feel your body resting on it. Imagine your burdens resting with Jesus. And from that place, what are the words What are the images? What are the action impulses? What is the goodness, the blessing, the clarity? And if nothing emerges, maybe that's okay. Part of the story is that Jesus is quiet. Maybe the stillness and the rest is enough. May the words of my mouth, may the meditation of my heart be pleasing to you, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer. Amen. Thank you for joining us for a Sunday sermon from Netart's Friends Church. We hope you'll join us soon for one of our in-person worship gatherings. For more information, hop on over to netartsfriends.org. God's peace be with you, friends.